Here we go. Chapter 67. Myne. Summary. How do these two move on from their disastrous first night? Myne slept fitfully. It wasn't that she was plagued by dreams. It was that her mind kept running in circles even while she slept. It was like her brain was belatedly trying to make sense of what had happened, and a lot had happened in just one evening. Given her tumultuous state of mind, she shouldn't have been able to sleep at all. But after weeks of little sleep and lots of stress in preparation for the salon's reopening, the night of Shutsaria's feast, and finalizing her winter prep, she was finally beginning to feel the effects of running around frenetically. She was exhausted on so many levels. And so she drifted off to sleep, even as her mind kept going in circles, only to wake after what felt like mere moments, grasping in the darkness next to her, to make sure that, yes, Eckhart was still there. Once she thought she had a dream that she woke and found him gone, only for his hand to shake her awake.
Myne, I'm here.
Oh, I, I, I thought I.
It's all right. Everything is all right. Sleep.
Every time she woke, she had to make sure that he was there, that she hadn't dreamed him up, hadn't dreamed that he'd returned to her, called her name, and let her hold him tight as she cried and wailed, unable to put her pain, grief, regret, and her relief into words. Earlier, Eckhart didn't say much, or actually anything. He just heard her out with the patience and forbearance of a saint until she calmed down somewhat. Then he tried to pry her arms from around his torso.
No!
She'd said, sniffling pitifully.
Please don't go!
I won't.
But.
He had to reassure her a few more times until at last she released him. When she did, he lit a few candles before returning to her and motioning her to turn around. She did so obediently, and he wordlessly pulled out the bejeweled hairpins from her hair, or at least those that were still remained in her now very disheveled updo, while she hugged her knees. He was careful, yet surprisingly adept, at undoing the many twists and braids that made up her complex hairdo.
He must have done this before.
She thought with a sigh as she felt him gently massage her scalp, just as her own attendants did when they let her hair down at night.
I'm going to cast washing and get the sticky stuff out.
He said in a low voice. Myne nodded once, before she felt that cool, tingly magic water on her hair and scalp, cleaning away the gel-like product on her hair.
Feels good.
Next, Myne tried to reach behind her to remove her dress, but her limbs felt like lead.
Can you help me, please?
She asked, her mouth feeling dry and mealy.
I can call your attendants for you if you...
No!
Myne said, tears springing in her eyes again. She couldn't bear having anyone around her, not the way she was at the moment. No one but Eckhart would do. He didn't really need to do anything, she just needed his help undoing the last of the laces in the back. But in hindsight, she realized that she didn't actually voice that out. Probably Eckhart thought that she was shamelessly asking for him to play the role of her attendant. Still, he took on the role without a single complaint. Myne should have felt embarrassed at him helping her take off the dress, the corset, and the many layers of petticoats underneath, and the little belt that held her stockings in place. But she didn't. Aside from her father back when she'd been a little girl toddling around in rags, no other man had ever seen her in such a state of undress. Yet there was nothing sensual about the way he undressed her. When she was stripped down to the last shivering layer, He sat on the bed and with a small sigh, solicitously asked if he could cast washing on her. She hesitated for a moment before she nodded and slowly, shyly, spread her legs a bit. She bit her lip and looked away, but she didn't need to feel embarrassed because he took care of things down there swiftly and without any fuss.
I'm sorry,
He said when she flinched at the feel of the cool magic water.
It's fine.
She replied tremulously.
No, it's not fine.
He replied in a low voice. Surprised, she glanced his way, and when she did, their eyes met briefly. They both hastily looked away. She had thought that he was calm, but after that glimpse into his eyes, she got the impression that a storm of emotions was raging in their blue depths. She didn't even try to imagine what he must be feeling. She already knew he was angry and upset, and surely he hated her as much as she hated herself. But could a person hate another while carefully tending to them the way he was tending to her? She wasn't sure, but nothing in her women's education said that her Dark Lord would tend to her like this after Beischmacht's embrace. Eckhart even cast Heilschmerz's healing on her. She wasn't sure about it, but as a green light shone from his ring, she thought he heard him murmur a word of apology. Mine wanted to cry. What was he apologizing for? She swallowed down the tears and also the question. Once he'd healed the marks of Geduld at her neck, throat, shoulders, and even her breasts, how many of them were there? He went to the chair where her nightgown had been set out in preparation, and he helped her into it. Then he tucked her in bed.
Are you leaving?
She asked, sitting up again.
Do you want me to stay?
Yes, she did. Desperately. But she didn't have the right to ask him to spend the night and hold her. She had no right to so selfishly avail herself of his warmth, his fingers caressing her hair, or his powerful arms wrapping around her protectively. Yet she couldn't bear it if he left her alone again.
Just until I fall asleep, please.
Myne asked, reaching for his hand tentatively. She stopped just short of touching him. She couldn't quite bring herself to hold his hand, so she let her hand fall on the bed again, resting next to his. For a long moment she looked down at their hands, so close, yet not touching at all. She was a coward, a terrible coward. She couldn't touch his hand, and had it been anyone else other than Eckhart, she would have let it go, let him go. But this was Eckhart, and she needed him on a fundamental level. She might lose the love of her life, and she might lose contact with her parents and family for months. But while their loss would cripple her for sure, losing Eckhart was unthinkable. Without him, she'd fall to pieces. For the first time, Myne realized just what Eckhart was to her, and knew that she couldn't do without him, not anymore. Risking rejection and incurring his anger, she swallowed down her cowardice and extended her pinky finger to touch his. It was a small movement. She hadn't needed to move it more than a centimeter or two to graze his skin, but it was enough. After a slight pause, his finger also moved, and strangely enough, they ended up entwining each other's pinkies before he finally took her hand in his. Her heart almost burst. Sagging in relief, she exhaled out the breath she'd been unconsciously holding. Next thing she knew, she was back in Eckhart's arms, and she was grabbing onto him with desperation, while a flood of tears ran down her face once more as he assured her that he'd stay with her. It took a while, but once she stopped crying, he tucked her in, added more wood to the fire, and blew out the candles. Then he returned to her side. She felt the bed dip under his weight, but she didn't feel him get under the covers. In fact, he settled next to her, but rather than spread out as he usually did, he crossed his arms, crossed his ankles, and closed his eyes with a sigh. Ah, things between them weren't quite like they had been before. Of course they wouldn't, not after what had transpired between them. They'd have to have a talk at some point, and she dreaded morning's arrival if it meant them getting into another argument. Yet in spite of the new tension between them, Eckhart stirred and extended his hand toward her. Surprised, Myne seized it without thinking and held onto it as one would grab onto a lifeline. After a moment, she inched closer to him until she could feel his warmth and inhale his familiar scent, a scent which she now associated with comfort. She sighed and closed her eyes. Myne opened her eyes with a start. Blinking, she peered up and saw Eckhart's blue, watchful eyes on her.
Sorry to wake you,
He said, his voice gravelly and low.
I have to go train.
Myne groaned softly and blinked as she glanced around trying to tell what time it was. The gray light of dawn was filtering weakly through the curtains. Delia hadn't even arrived to tend to the fire and prepare her room for the morning.
So early?
She said, her voice sounding raspy.
I have a long-standing appointment with my sparring partner every morning before second bell.
He said.
I'm already late as is.
Myne realized she was still holding onto his hand, so she released it. He wasted no time to roll out of her bed and proceeded to straighten himself up. Myne thought it weird that he was in such a hurry. She didn't recall him ever saying anything about having to leave in the mornings to go training, but maybe that was just an excuse to leave her. She sincerely hoped not.
I'm going to the castle today with Lord Ferdinand. I'll probably be out all day, but you can spare some time. But can you spare some time for me in the evening?
Myne looked up and saw his blue eyes on her, watching her steadily.
Of course, you don't have to ask.
No, but I do.
Eckhart said, giving her a humorless smile. She flinched. The words were familiar, but the cold way he said them certainly wasn't.
What's that supposed to mean?
Honestly, I don't know.
He said.
We'll talk about it later.
No, let's talk about it now.
Myne said, realizing that she didn't want to be in dread of what he might say and fretting and pondering about it all day long.
Not now, Myne.
Eckhart said wearily, and his blue eyes bore into hers.
I need some time.
Myne wanted to protest, but she relented when she realized that after what he'd done for her last night, tending to her and staying the night, probably against his wishes, she owed him that much at least.
All right, tonight.
Myne said, and started to get off the bed.
What are you doing?
Eckhart said.
I can see you off.
Myne said, looking for her slippers.
But at least I'm going to tell them to get you something to eat. You can't train on an empty stomach.
Having found her slippers, she stood, shivering. The fire had died. Her sleeping gown was of thin, delicate material. Plus, she'd not put on her usual thick socks to keep her warm. Where was her shawl? She stepped toward Eckhart as she looked around for her missing shawl, and he took 2 steps back.
No need.
Eckhart, please, it won't take long.
She said beseechingly, trying to convince him to at least eat something before he left.
I'll grab something to eat at the barracks.
He said before turning on his heel.
You should go back to bed. It's cold.
But
He was gone, before she could say anything else. End of chapter.
My heart is breaking.
Aw.
I told you this chapter wouldn't fix the last for the long.
Yeah. So, I mean, he came back, right? Which is, I don't know, I probably would not have. But it's still, not everything is all right. There's still that strain between them. Yeah.
And of course, Eckhart is a stoic man, so he would rather not communicate what he's feeling right now. So I understand how he feels. It's something that I've felt before, but many times women don't quite understand it. Oftentimes men need to puzzle out what they're feeling so that they can better communicate it. And it's not something that's very easy to explain.
Yeah. I think he still needs that extra time to process. I mean, a lot happened, a lot went down. But at least Myne was able to like give him that time. Like, that all that day long she's going to be like worrying, she's going to be like overthinking, she's going to be, but it was not the time to hash everything out right there and then. Yeah, sorry? Yukihime?
Yeah, I get it from Myne's perspective of like, no, let's fix it now. But like, yeah, what Patrick said, I really don't get it when people like need time and don't want to make it make sense, and that's in that second exactly.
I am so happy, Yukihime, that you think the same way, because I'm the person that would be like, no, let's hash it out right now. Like,
I'm also like that.
I believe nothing like a good argument to clear the air. Like, yell at each other, like do the things, but afterwards, like, we're cool. You said everything. We said everything. Okay, let's move.
Nah, you lost me. No, you lost me. I'm not with you on this one. I'm like, yes, if there is no option, then yelling, then yes, please walk away.
Well, okay.
But like if yes, so like I'm not with you on that one. But like if
man, I wish I were civilized in relationships. Sorry. Never mind. I'm all alone here, you guys. Magpie is trash at relationships.
I seem to remember growing up in the 90s, there was a book that came out that was very popular.
Do not say men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Oh my God,
exactly.
I was also thinking of that one, but yeah, it fits this situation perfectly.
Yeah.
Even here in the chat, it fits.
Honestly, though, I think it's also a Magpie thing, you guys. Because, for example, I can get pretty upset pretty quick. But after things blow over, I'm like, cool, okay, let's go. Like, I don't hold, like, I would rather just clear things out immediately. And when I say, like, yell at each other, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to call each other names, hurt each other, be hurtful. It's just like,
Right.
Yeah, like I don't want you to guys think that I'm like I would like hurt another person during an argument. Like it sounds like it, but I'm not. It's like I'm like 1/16 Italian, so we have to yell at each other. So I think that's part of that, and also yeah.
So from a male perspective, it's not something that we do very well, confronting our feelings with someone else. We'd rather do something with our hands so we can puzzle things out in our heads. You know, go out and chop wood or go to work and work on some project at work not really talking to anybody, just, working on something, because that's something that we can do, we can fix, we can... It's not... That's pretty much our therapy. We don't like to talk about these things.
No sappy feeling talk. Oh, I got it. So I am actually really proud of myself for having written Eckhart the way I did, because if it had been my brothers, I would have just have them clear the air right there and then.
Pat yourself on the back?
Yeah. See, I don't have to give in to like every single So that's what happened. 67. Like they could have talked it out, but no, they're not. Like she has to wait and he has to process. And chapter 68 is actually a Eckhart POV, so it's kind of like how he processed things. So let's see if Magpie continue to do a good job in this department. Yeah, and let's do this. 60. Oh shoot! Why do I always do this to myself? I keep talking and I don't take the time to ready stuff. Please talk, you guys, while I...
Oh, by the way, while Magpie is trying to get things all figured out on her end, let's remind everybody that we would love it if you were to like and subscribe to this video, and subscribe to her channel and follow her also on her main channel. Also, if you want to join us in these read-alongs and our amazing activities, please join her on the Ko-fi so we can all talk together.
Yes,
it's very fun here. Come here.
I can vouch for these people. They do like to troll on occasion, but they are wonderful individuals. So, come here, just as Yukihime says. Join us. And we are having... you guys can notice I'm trying to do two things at the same time. We are having Christmas things happening. I had to schedule some Christmas movie nights. We are having a Christmas, not a Christmas karaoke, because it's not going to be Christmas songs. If you want to sing a Christmas song, by all means do it, but it's not limited to Christmas songs. So yeah, we're having a karaoke night. We're doing read-alongs. We are doing every week Hanolo read-alongs, so that's exclusive to Magpie's supporters. We're on Ko-fi, so do join us if that is something that you want to do. Still setting up, you guys. Sorry. Oh, also, since I haven't pushed the merch lately, I do have merch. So get yourself something for Christmas. Get yourself something, or get somebody you love something from there. My particular favorite, you guys, I've taken a great liking to the mugs. So I like those, and I don't know, you can never have enough mugs. So,
as a certain singer likes to sing every Christmas season, all I want for Christmas is you.
Right. So get in the Christmas spirit and get your Magpie something. Not get your Magpie. Get yourself something, and then you will benefit your Magpie by doing that. Okay. All right. So I am ready.
I just got booed by Fergie.
I'm so ready.
Did you just to spoil? Did you just here? Here is where I saw the game of just not hearing the "All I Want for Christmas."
It's fine. It was the Wham! Last Christmas. Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, but as long as you don't hear the original, you're fine. It's
I'm putting the original.
Don't listen to the original. All right, everybody, let's get started. Chapter 68. Let's put aside the tangents now. Thank you for tangenting with me for me. Let's get to the reading.
Never.
Chapter 68. Gathering Intelligence. Eckhart. Summary. Eckhart and Myne have the talk. First he processes, of course. All right. That morning during training, Darius remarked on his mood. Though the two knew each other since they were children and were close work associates, the relationship was strictly a professional one, keeping to their unspoken agreement to not ask or talk about their personal lives. After all, Eckhart had long since been regarded by most nobles as a lunatic for his single-minded devotion to his master, while Darius was always embroiled in amorous scandals. So for Darius to broach the subject as they sparred on the practice grounds meant that Eckhart must have betrayed himself in some noticeable way.
It's nothing.
Eckhart replied, but Darius chuckled.
If you say so, but I know the signs. It's a woman, isn't it?
Eckhart ignored him, which only caused Darius to grin. He murmured under his breath.
I knew it. After all these years, the goddess of spring has come to bless you at last.
Eckhart kept his face neutral, not wanting to give out more than he already had. Because, yes, of course it was a woman, and not just any woman. It was Myne. Beautiful, glorious, endearing, and infuriating Myne. Myne, who had stolen the heart he thought he'd buried so many years ago. And then, not content with that, she turned around and broke it last night. Myne whom he'd wanted to hate, but even in his anger he could not bring himself to hurt her, let alone hate her. Myne who had made his blood race and his mana stir the night before, and who even this morning had unconsciously enticed him when she'd gotten out of bed wearing only a thin nightgown that left little to the imagination. She'd made him flee the room as fast as he could. Eckhart was aghast that, confused and hurt as he'd felt, he still desired her. But while he was conflicted, he wasn't about to carelessly spill things about her and about their relationship to anyone, least of all a profligate bedhop like his sparring partner. He beat Darius resoundingly, and a little while later, Eckhart made his way to the knight's lodgings, where he still kept a room, intending to change and get something to eat before going to Lord Ferdinand's. As he was slowly transitioning to living at Myne's, it was unreasonable for him to go back to his estate and expect things to be all laid out for him, and his cooks to be able to prepare a good breakfast before third bell, though he wished he could. He sighed as he entered the building. He would have liked to have a bath, but a washing would have to do. As for breakfast, Eckhart grimaced. He was not looking forward to eating barrack food. Compared to Ella's cooking, everything else was bland and tasteless. But there was no helping it. He was thinking these things when he opened the door to his room, and his eyes widened when he saw Erminold within.
Lady Myne asked me to deliver some food for you.
His attendant explained, before Eckhart even asked, while he motioned to the basket sitting on the polished writing desk next to the window.
I also took it upon myself to bring you your clothing for the day.
Eckhart sighed once he got over his shock.
Thank you, Ermenholt.
It was Lady Myne who asked me to come.
The man replied as he began to help Eckhart out of his clothes.
She herself saw you through your breakfast, my lord.
I'll be sure to thank her.
As Eckhart gratefully stepped into the bath Ermenholt had prepared for him, his attendant gathered his used clothing, including those he'd been wearing since the night before. Oh, I think that's Ermenholt. Emmy.
Oops, sorry.
I shall take these.
I shall take this back to wash then.
As Ermenholt picked up the bundle, a thick, crumpled piece of paper fell from it.
Oh?
Eckhart immediately recognized Myne's letter.
Oh.
Then he remembered that yesterday, after finding it on the book by his bedside table, he'd seized it before going to Myne's room. He must have stuffed it in his person as if it were some kind of charm to give him courage or something. Oddly enough, he'd completely forgotten all about it.
Give it here.
Eckhart said, and once Erminold was safely away in the other room, Eckhart carefully opened the envelope and took out the letter, making sure not to get it wet, as he scanned the lines of the letter he'd long since memorized, almost as if he was searching for hidden clues or a secret message between the carefully written lines. The day passed as usual, except that he no longer needed to go to the temple to work or receive his assignments. He went to greet his lord at his estate along with Eustace. Lord Ferdinand looked the same as usual, if a little paler, but he behaved no differently than before. Eckhart wondered if perhaps his assumption that something major had transpired between Myne and Lord Ferdinand the night before was incorrect. Had he jumped to conclusions? Had he been wrong to feel so hurt and angry and used? As they all reported to Ferdinand, Eckhart debated whether or not to inform his lord about greeting winter with Myne, but when the moment came, he could not say it. He simply said that Myne was exhausted from the party, but was otherwise fine.
I see. I'm glad she didn't overexert herself.
Eckhart was no good at intelligence gathering. Lord Ferdinand had once remarked that he was as subtle as a sledgehammer, and while Eckhart didn't quite understand what he meant by that, he figured that if it meant threatening the other person with hitting them with one over the head until they told him what he wanted to know, well, then yes, it was an apt description for his methods. Obviously, he couldn't take that approach on Lasfram, who was the only one of the three who had seen Lord Ferdinand the night before. But when he managed to catch him alone and asked, Lasfram had looked at him oddly and said that Lord Ferdinand had sent Lasfram an ordinance telling him that he was leaving, as he was feeling indisposed. Lasfram, fearing that their master was ill, or even worse, poisoned, had rushed out of the party and gone back to their lord's estate, determined to tend to him.
Indisposed? Was he sick?
Lasfram shook his head.
He did not appear to be sick. He didn't take any potions or medicines. And when I asked if he wanted my special elixir to ward against hangovers, he declined. After his bath, he immediately went to bed.
So you think the party was too much for him?
Eckhart said, frowning. That was very unlikely, though. Lord Ferdinand relished every opportunity to gather intelligence, though he'd never admit it to anyone.
Strangely enough, yes. Though it's odd. He seemed to be enjoying himself before he suddenly disappeared.
Right.
If you happen to find out anything, please let me know too. I'd like to prepare in case it happens again.
Of course.
Something is in your mind.
Eustace said once the day's work was done, and they were heading home.
What are you talking about?
Eckhart said, hiding his surprise and dismay. First Darius and now Eustace. Why did it have to be Eustace of all people? Eustace chuckled.
All right, I will pry into your affairs, just to be sure that tomorrow, when we accompany Lord Ferdinand to the social gathering, you have all the wits about you.
Eckhart grimaced.
You don't have to tell me that. What kind of guard knight would I be if I let my thoughts distract me while on duty?
Eustace gave him an appraising look and nodded, satisfied.
Mm-hmm. That's better. That's the look in your eyes I'm accustomed to seeing. Say hello to mine for me, and thank her for last night. She certainly knows how to host a party. I will drop in on you both one on this evenings.
Please don't.
Eustace laughed and scampered off while Eckhart produced his high beast. And for the first time ever, He made his way to Myne's with dread. The evening started off as usual, or so it appeared at first. After Myne greeted him, they had dinner in the blue room as they always did. Their attendants retreated, and Veritas played soft music as they ate. But aside from the clinking of their plates, they were both quiet. While the table where they ate wasn't long at all, the distance between the two of them that particular evening seemed to exceed even the length of the castle's formal dining table. It was the first time since they'd begun to frequent each other that he could feel such a great divide between them. Yet, even from that great distance, he was not immune to her. Now that he and Myne had been intimate, there were some things about her that he was now extremely aware of. He'd always known that she was beautiful, but now his eyes couldn't get enough of her. From the way the dress clung to her curves, the delicate curve of her neck, the swell of flesh above her low neckline, he couldn't take his eyes away from her. It was pure agony, down to how, when she licked her lips after taking a sip of wine, a frisson of desire unfurled within him. It was distracting and altogether awful.
How was your day?
Myne said, venturing to speak at last. Eckhart looked down at his plate, embarrassed at being caught staring.
Fine.
How is it feel? How does it feel having Lord Ferdinand back in noble society? Do you think he's adjusting well?
Eckhart's eyes immediately darted her way again. Of course, she would ask about his master. Didn't Blue Ampha dance in her heart for him? The food in his mouth tasted bitter, so he washed it all down with Vise.
Lord Ferdinand's return to noble society has caused quite a stir.
Eckhart said, trying to sound nonchalant.
But as far as he's concerned, it's all business as usual. He went to the castle today and was warmly welcomed by the Archduke and his family.
I see.
She said with a small, polite smile, and returned her attention to her plate.
I'm glad.
Eckhart was not able to read her neutral expression, and he cursed at the annoying habits she was picking up from his mother. Mine used to be an open book. Now she was composed and her expressions opaque. Too much so. Either she had gotten really good at hiding her feelings, or she truly was as unconcerned about Lord Ferdinand as she pretended to be. Eckhart already knew which it was, and it infuriated him. So he did what he always did and took out his metaphorical sledgehammer.
Last time mentioned that Lord Ferdinand acted strangely after leaving the party last night. Do you happen to know why?
Myne's eyes remained lowered, and after a pause, asked,
What do you mean by strangely?
He said that Lord Ferdinand left the party early yesterday and went to bed almost immediately upon returning home.
Was he sick?
Myne said, looking up at last, looking innocently into his eyes.
He never gets sick.
Eckhart said, glowering.
Besides, he looked exactly as he always does.
I see. Well, I wouldn't know, Eckhart.
Myne said, picking up her wine glass and sipping delicately from it, looking as carefree as could be, her society lady smile firmly in place. She avoided meeting his eyes, though.
Don't talk as if you have nothing to do with it.
Eckhart replied, his voice sounding like a low growl in his ears. He wished that she could just drop the act. Who was she trying to deceive?
What happened yesterday between the two of you?
Myne set her glass down and looked at him, pale-faced and wide-eyed, for it was the first time Eckhart ever spoke to her like this. Still, she chose to play it all off.
Nothing worth mentioning happened.
He scoffed.
I mean it, Eckhart. Nothing that could concern you.
It concerns me. Everything about you concerns me.
Eckhart said, feeling his temper rise.
I've told you before.
You indeed have said that, but there are things you and I have tacitly agreed to never touch.
Eckhart raised his eyebrows.
Such as?
Our past relationships?
Myne said, looking unhappy as she mumbled the words.
Don't you dare, Myne.
He warned her in a low voice.
Don't you dare go there.
Myne did not heed his warning. She looked at him, cheeks blazing red.
Why? Why do you get to enshrine your past love? Why is Heidemarie off limits? Yet you see fit to pry into what happened between me and Ferdinand. It's no less painful.
With an indignant sigh, she threw her napkin on her plate and rose from her seat.
I've had enough. Good night.
We're not done talking, Myne.
Well, I'm done,
she said before turning away. Eckhart pushed his plate away, then stood and strode her way, grabbing her by the forearm and whirling her around to face him.
No, not until we clear things between us. You want me to talk about her before answering my questions? Fine. Here's the most important thing you need to know. She is dead.
Just saying the words cut him to the quick. Myne, not expecting him to be so blunt, flinched. But there it was, the inescapable truth that neither of them could deny.
Heidemarie is gone.
He continued.
And she can't come back, no matter how much I wish it for her. She's no threat to you. She doesn't even stand between you and me. Whereas last night, you had me bed you. You used me as a damn proxy.
What? What do you mean?
Myne said, twisting and trying to free herself from his grasp. Eckhart's grip on her was iron strong, as he forced himself to say the vile, revolting words.
You were pretending that I was Lord Ferdinand.
She gasped.
It was not.
He gave a mirthless, haughty laugh, because of course she'd deny it.
You wanted me to take you in the dark without care, as if I were some kind of brute.
Eckhart said, lowering his voice to a hiss.
There are words not fit for ladies' ears to describe how I felt. Yet you had me play that role. Was that what you wanted, Myne? Were you trying to take care of some unfulfilled urge after you met with him?
No!
Myne exclaimed, a look of shock and disgust on her face. She pulled on his grip, but he did not yield.
You must have regretted it, or been horrified that it was me, not your love, who plucked your first blossom.
That's not true,
she said, still trying to break free from his grasp. Eckhart saw tears beginning to form in her eyes, but for once he didn't feel that instinctive need to hold and comfort her. He was far too focused on his goal, and he needed answers now. Releasing her arm, he took her by the elbow and hauled her ungracefully to the large, tufted chair by the fireplace and plopped her there. Before she could even attempt to get up once more, he knelt in front of her and placed his hands on the armrest, preventing her from being able to move from her seat.
Then tell me,
he said, thrusting his face close to hers.
What was in your mind when you had me in your bed? That's all I need to know. You led me to believe that there was a future between us, and I believed you. But in the future you dreamed up, but if the future you dreamed up has me being a stand-in for you to pretend that Lord Ferdinand is the one with you in bed.
Stop it! Just stop it, Eckhart!
Myne exclaimed angrily, placing her hands on his chest and pushing him away.
What do you take me for? Do you really think I'm the kind of woman to do something like that?
Eckhart didn't even have to ponder his response.
Honestly, no. But then I wouldn't be the first man to be fooled by a woman.
He paused, thinking back to the night before.
When I returned to your bedroom last night, you were crying. And the first thing you did was cling to me and apologize. That's all you did until you calmed down. You apologized! What else was I supposed to think after that? Except that my suspicions were correct.
Yes, but that's not why I was apologizing.
No? Then why? Because despite it all, God's damn it! The one that should have been apologizing should have been me.
You? Why?
Eckhart looked away. This was the part that made him dread their conversation. Last night he'd not acted with honor, and he'd been too angry to think straight and do the right thing.
I knew something was wrong, but rather than put an end to it, I played along with your foolish game.
He said, the words in his mouth tasting of bitter regret.
I took you just as you wanted it, not even though I knew it was blah. I'm sorry. I took you just as you wanted it, even though I knew it wouldn't be good for you in the end, and that you might even regret it. Of the two, I am the more experienced one. I should have known to ignore your drunken requests.
Her being drunk wouldn't have been ideal, but he'd understand it given her youth. In fact, he would have preferred it to be the truth. He would have preferred it to the truth that had stared him in the face.
I was not drunk,
Myne exclaimed, and Eckhart was silent, waiting for her to explain herself. In time she continued.
I don't know. It started with me being angry and wanting to punish Ferdinand in some way that makes absolutely no sense now. He said some terrible things to me, and I was angry.
So you admit you were using me?
Eckhart said, his temper rising once more. Suddenly he couldn't stand to be so near her. He rose, took several steps away, and leant against the mantelpiece, looking down at the dancing flames in the hearth.
I didn't consider your feelings, but I swear to you that I never, ever thought of you as being a stand-in for another man, least of all Ferdinand. I assumed that you'd be fine with it since you said you'd never come to love anyone else but her. I figure you wouldn't care, and that sharing my time, night affections with me would be like nothing. Most men are like that, after all.
I'm not most men,
Eckhart said, gritting his teeth, still looking into the fire and trying to contain the bubbling anger that threatened to overtake him.
I know that now.
No, I don't think you understand.
Eckhart said, finally glancing her way.
I never, not even once, touched another woman since Hyde Marie. It's been more than 10 years, Myne, and I was convinced there would only ever be her for the rest of my days. Most men would take a mistress or another wife or visit the temple to relieve their urges. But I never did because I thought it would dishonor the memory of the woman I loved. I vowed that I'd never again take another woman to bed.
I see.
Eckhart's answering chuckle held no humor. He gave her a sardonic grin.
Do you? Does that mean you now realize what it meant for me to even offer myself to you as your husband? An offer that you trampled on as if it meant nothing. Men of honor do not make promises lightly. When you mess with their sense of honor and pride, mine, you risk breaking a man's sense of self-respect. Maybe even their sense of self. Granted, I took your Granted, I took up your role as protect. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Wow.
I messed up right there, the grammar. Took up the role.
I'm also getting tongue tied here.
You're doing great, no worries.
Granted, I took up your role as your protector willingly and for my master's sake. But coming to care for you, that was never a part of the contract. And I assure you, it was not easy to admit to myself that I cared for you, even desired you.
Myne bit her lip as she processed what he just told her. At least she had the grace to look apologetic, or maybe she was embarrassed.
I understand.
She said at last, hanging her head.
And I'm sorry. I was so wrapped up in myself and my own grief that I selfishly took advantage of you and never stopped to think of your feelings. I took you for granted. I don't even think there's anything I can do to make up for it. Is there?
You can start by being honest with me.
Eckhart said with a sigh. He stomped over to the couch and dropped into it, feeling as battered as if he'd just finished sparring a match against 3 Dunkelfulgarians. He was exhausted on so many levels, but they needed to get to the bottom of their issues. They couldn't leave this unresolved, not if he wanted to avoid what his parents had. Days and weeks of brewing tension that made everyone in the house unhappy, simply because they couldn't be honest with each other. Living in a house, no, living in that house as a youth had been an absolute hell, and Eckhart was determined not to repeat the same mistake. He looked Myne's way and beckoned her to sit next to him, patting the space next to him on their couch. She hesitated, but in the end she rose and sat next to him.
Look, keep your tryst with Lord Ferdinand secret if you must, but at least tell me what last night, what we did, meant to you.
What it meant?
Myne's eyes took on a blank look, as if she had no idea how to reply. Eckhart groaned internally. Good gods, he'd almost forgotten what it was like to be so young. Had he at her age been so ignorant of his own feelings? Probably. He took a deep breath and prayed for the blessing of Dulcetzen.
For starters, why did you apologize and why were you crying so much when I returned to you?
That.
She looked away embarrassed. He waited expectantly. At last she began to speak.
I was sorry about everything, hurting you, making you welcome winter with me in such a loveless manner. Even I knew that what we had done was wrong.
She looked into his eyes reproachfully.
But you left! You left! Before I could even say anything, I was so afraid that I had ruined things between us. Is it any wonder I was crying? Do you have any idea how it felt to find myself alone?
Eckhart couldn't believe his ears.
I called you. even reached out to touch you, but you drew back from me. You were crying and acting as if my presence was the last thing you wanted. Excuse me for not sticking around when I was so clearly not wanted.
It's not true. I wanted you to hold me.
Well, you had an odd way of expressing it. You refused to even talk to me afterwards. Do you have any idea how that felt?
Probably as bewildering as I felt. I totally blacked out, and when I came to, I couldn't believe you'd just gone.
You blacked out?
Eckhart said, confused. And then,
Oh. Oh. Oh.
as as understanding dawned, a primal part of him preemed with manly pride. Suddenly, his mood turned jubilant and he forgot all about his exhaustion. Exhaustion? What exhaustion? He now felt compelled to run out in the snow and slay the Lord of Winter himself. He felt like having a sparring match against a dozen knights, Dunkel Felgarians all. He wanted to shout and bang his fists against his chest and tell whoever would listen about this particular achievement of his. Yes, even Darius. Of course, he couldn't do any of those things. He and Myne were still talking, and all he could do was cover the lower half of his face with his hand as he pretended to listen closely.
So it all boils down to relief. I was relieved when you returned to me.
Myne said.
Eckhart?
Myne inched a bit closer.
What I'm most worried about, though, is you.
He glanced her way, confused.
What? Me?
Myne nodded and raised her hand as if to touch his face as she sometimes did, only for her to catch herself and put her hand back down.
Did I break you?
Break me?
Like you said earlier, about honor and promises, does being with me hurt you?
He gave a quiet scoff.
You didn't break me. I was angry and confused, and I acted rashly, but I didn't break. I guess it comes from being a Linkberg. We're all stupidly strong. I can't say the same about my heart, though.
Eckhart thought he understood, at least, what she had meant when she'd explained the strange phrase to him all those weeks ago. He took her hand, the same hand that had earlier reached out to him, and leaned back against the backrest of the couch looking into the fire. She gave his hand a light squeeze, and also settled for sitting in silence to gaze into the dancing flames. No, to gaze into the dancing flames and listen to the soft music that still played from Veritas. Myne spoke up suddenly.
Eckhart,
Hmm?
I think I need to tell you this. No, I know I have to tell you this. Last night I slipped away out into the garden with Ferdinand while the party went on.
Eckhart's head whirled in surprise, and he found himself staring at Myne's golden eyes, while she looked a bit apprehensive. Her eyes, so full of quiet determination, still looked unflinchingly into his own.
All you need to know is that it is over, for good. And in part, thanks to you, I can understand his position a little better. However,
She sighed and turned to look at Veritas, who rested on the side table, gleaming gently as he played music.
if you really need to know what happened, I can put my memories of last night into Veritas so he can play back the conversation.
Eckhart's eyes widened in surprise.
You know Veritas is incapable of lying, right?
Myne said with a rueful smile.
I just don't want to keep things from you.
She said, squeezing his hand. Eckhart's heart thundered inside him.
Mine. You.
It will not be pleasant, and I may have to leave the room because I truly have no wish to hear it again. But if it gives you peace of mind,
No.
Eckhart said immediately. There was nothing to ponder or consider. He didn't need to think it over either. He reached his conclusion by sheer instinct, and, in the same way, he reached for mine right there and then, because having her sit on his lap like always was what felt right to him.
No.
He said as he hugged her.
I would never ask you to do that.
After a short pause, mine's slender arms tentatively wrapped around him before they squeezed him back hard.
but I am not completely over him, and
It's not necessary.
He said emphatically. If he was being honest, he wasn't completely over Heinmarie, so he wasn't in any position to ask the same of mine. She drew back from their hug.
but
He silenced her by gently brushing the pad of his thumb over her lips.
Mine. If we are going to make things work, we're going to have to learn to trust one another, all right? No more games. No more hiding things from each other going forward.
Mine nodded in agreement, still silenced by the finger brushing against her lip.
Then, can we agree to move past what happened last night?
He asked, looking into her eyes, gently running his finger down the side of her face.
yes, please.
Mine replied before hugging him once more. He heard her sob as she buried her face against him, and he felt her frame shake as she cried. He said nothing, simply put his hand over her head and held her there until she calmed down once more. It got late. The wind outside howled and Veritas reached the end of his playlist. Still, the two of them sat on the couch talking softly until the candlesticks on the dining table were reduced to stumps and the fire burned through the log in the hearth. It got cold, so he escorted her to her room and bid her good night. Mine smiled over her shoulder at him by way of reply. She gave his hand another squeeze before releasing it and stepped into her chamber where her attendants waited for her. Eckhart turned and went to his own chambers where he bathed and got ready for bed. Soon after, Imenold bid him good night and left. Eckhart heard her steps in the corridor. From the sound her slippers made as they made their way to him, he could tell she wasn't tiptoeing or trying to sneak in. She was coming to him deliberately and decisively. Pleased, Eckhart smiled to himself. Then, soundlessly as a wolf stalking its prey, he rose from his bed and opened the door. And yes, there she was. Mine stood in the hallway, hair down, smelling of soap and flowers, and clad only in her sleeping gown and shawl. Eckhart drew her into his room before she even had the chance to knock on his door, or even say a word. End of chapter.
Well, that was definitely a powerful chapter.
Yeah.
Lot of passionate yelling.
I tell you, lots of yelling. Yelling has to happen. Magpie likes to clear the air with yelling sometimes, so yeah. If anybody would like to take a whack at this conversation without yelling, be my guest. Yeah.
Oh no, my interpretation was with plenty of yelling.
You guys, by the way, I have to say bravo to everybody who read, but man, doing Eckhart and Myne, it's such a challenge, at least for this chapter. Well, every time, but this chapter was like, oh my gosh. So bravo to all the people that read, and especially Yukihime and Patrick. You guys did a great job in this chapter.
Yay.
Everybody was great.
I mean, sadly, they had to have a discussion that was not easy, but at least it seems like they kind of cleared the air and stuff. And of course, let us not forget, thank you to Emmy and Fergie, who also read roles, even though it was mostly an Eckhart and Myne chapters. We did have them read these these roles. Thank you, you guys. You guys were amazing as well.
I loved Fergie's
Darius.
character. Yes, Darius.
I should have written more
Had so
lines
much
for him.
personality.
It was fun.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I should have put more Ferdinand lines too. It was just that one line. But yeah, so I'm gonna go back up to see some comments.
I have a question though.
Oh yeah, what's up?
Quickly, sorry.
Mhm.
That Ferdinand line though, the way you read it's very ambiguous whether or not he was like figured it out or thought it through. It's just like, oh, I hope it wasn't too. What's the word you used? Strenuous,
Exposed.
overexerting,
Yeah.
something like that. You know, language that could potentially mean is like, does he know? Does he know?
Well,
Maybe that was the point.
Ferdinand is a very smart individual, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, but at this moment, I don't think he would have figured it out.
Maybe
What's
not.
going on with
I mean,
Myne and Eckhart?
Personally,
Mhm.
I think he was so preoccupied with his conversation with Rosemine that it didn't really dawn on him that this was a possibility for the aftermath.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially because she, I don't know. Like, I don't think he would. He knows, or he probably understands, like that somebody that can say in one moment is like, "I love you," could that same night go and be with somebody else after an argument. So I don't know if he would understand that there's some people who kind of would do that kind of backlash, emotional backlash. But we'll see.
I don't know on that one. So he's so accustomed to being stabbed in the back that I think he might expect that.
So pain is to be expected. Oh man. Oh, I see that Red Tempest posted some memes. I shall post them. Let's see. Yes, that's somebody wants. Was that Emmy? No.
No, I haven't said anything.
Oh, okay. Let me just show some things. Here I have some memes from Red Tempest. Says, yes, he does confirm he was first comment, and first comment was stolen from him. It was YouTube. Nobody here is to blame. It was just YouTube. But hey, I saw it happened. Okay. We also have a meme, Magpie calling for Vincent. And there's another one, Red Tempest also put, when you help her mentally, physically, and emotionally, and she still prefers Ferdinand. I know, yeah, I know. You know, characters will do stupid things, so even though I'm writing the story, I sometimes don't have control of what they do, so yeah. Oh no, not the second meme.
Oh.
Ow!
Oh no.
Oh no!
No.
Red!
You.
No.
That's terrible.
Savage!
What is this? No.
Oh no.
Poor Eckhart.
Oh man, okay, so At least this chapter is kind of like it deals with the process that Eckhart has to go through. I hope it's not too much of a stretch to say that it only took one day for them to, talk it all out. But I mean, I'm writing a story. I have to hurry up. I have to get to other chapters. So I was like, okay, we're just gonna squeeze all of that into one day, one chapter. Which I think the readers, when I posted this, they were like so thankful that I didn't drag out more misunderstanding. I personally didn't want to do more chapters of more misunderstanding. I was just like, okay, let's just get the story moving.
The readers are always happy when the story is moving fast.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, kind of. Also, I want to mention again, Patrick, I absolutely love how you interpret Eckhart, and it's so different compared to like my interpretation when I was reading it, because I was reading it with Eckhart being a lot more, I guess, angry, and while you portray him with like a calm anger that is like a lot more hurt because of what happened, and just I love it. I absolutely love it how you interpret Eckhart.
Thank you.
It gave him a completely unique personality.
I think it also helps too, because when I wrote this chapter, some readers were really not really upset, but they pointed out like, yeah, like he comes across as being violent, and
Yes.
Maybe it was you that put that out. I forget who it was. The comments, it was like, yeah, that's a red flag. Like he grabbed her like roughly, and so yeah, it helps that you gave it like a nuance that he's not like violent, angry, like rah,
So,
people have different ways.
Are any fans of Star Trek: The Next Generation?
I'm sorry, no.
Or at least familiar?
No.
So in that series, there's this character named Worf, and he's a Klingon. He's obsessed with honor. He's essentially a lot like Eckhart, and he's very stoic. And he holds all of that in, and you can tell when he gets angry because yes, he will raise his voice, but he will withdraw quickly so that he doesn't do harm when he doesn't mean to. And that's how I see Eckhart.
Interesting.
I like that take. It fits with Eckhart because, again, he's not giving in to emotional outbursts. He really isn't. But he does, his defining characteristic is like very like kind of straight laced with honor and stuff like that. He will, yeah, it makes sense. I'm not acquainted with the character, but how you describe him it really does tick the boxes.
If you're a fan of sci-fi, I do recommend The Next Generation. It's one of my favorite Star Trek series. Other people will probably say original Star Trek. Some might say Voyager or Deep Space Nine, but for me, it's always been Next Generation. And I won't talk to anybody who says the newer stuff, so we're not going to talk about that.
Okay, and we won't because I at least haven't watched any of that. So going back to some of the comments while we were reading, Akihana, this comment made me chuckle a little bit. With how Eckhart and Ferdinand are, I'm beginning to think if men in general are all somewhat emotionally constipated. I think they're like a clinical case, especially Ferdinand. Like they need some. They need prescription.
There is some merit to that. There is absolutely some merit to that. We are not typically encouraged to embrace our softer nature.
Yeah.
One comment that I really like from Teal. I won't be. No, not that one. Sorry. It was their relationship
Mhm.
is like a broken vase, but they each seem eager to repair it, and I'm sure it will shine with gleaming rivulets of gold, stronger than it was before the break.
Oh
And I love
yes.
this.
And I love it
I
doubly
like that
so.
too.
Yeah. I love it doubly so because it calls to mind a certain fanfic. By the way, I didn't have time, Teal, to read fanfic or anything over the weekend, but was there a Thanksgiving miracle? Let me know. I shall go and check it out. Yes, Teal, Teal wrote it's writing a fanfic about using this metaphor of Kintsugi.
Kintsugi.
Yes.
Kintsugi.
Yes, it is the Japanese practice of mending broken pottery or whatever with like gold. So I really like how
Teal's denying that she wrote anything.
Why?
there are witnesses here. You cannot. We were witnesses. But yeah, thank you for that. That's a very beautiful comment, and it does remind me of that. And I do want to exert some pressure. If there has been no Thanksgiving miracle, I expect a Cyber Monday miracle. Of course, you're working, so I guess that's not gonna happen. But anyway, Akihan also points out, I found it funny how men tend to clear the air with their fists and women with their screeches. Yeah.
It doesn't sound nice.
I mean, it's kind of like it doesn't feel true. No, it's not true, but it feels true. But you know what? I just don't like it. Okay, here's my thing, you guys. It's not about screeching or yelling at each other. It's emotional withdrawal. Like I'm okay with like a discussion, a heated, lively discussion, as long as you don't like take it personally, offend each other, whatever, turn into hurtful words. But I have so much trouble like with relationships where it's been days and I really need to clear the air. Like I need to figure out what's going on, what happened, what did I do, what can we do to make things better. But the other person, I know you have to process. I hear you guys, men need time to process. But then there's the men that will emotionally withdraw, or women or whoever. This is not just in relationships, but also like in society, friends and whatever. People that will just withdraw and like will not want to talk it out. And it doesn't mean that we have to yell at each other or fight, but please.
I'm pretty bad at that.
Please don't do this. It's so hurt. It hurts more than the actual thing that happened. It really does. Like I have cried so hard over like people that I care for, and I'm like really trying to figure things out, and I'm like, please. I would rather you like cuss me out to my face so I can cuss back at you. No, just so we can clear things off. So anyway, just saying.
Speaking for myself on this subject, because I can't speak for all men, and I know I've been doing a lot of that today, but for myself, I fear hurting the person that I care about by saying something wrong, by yelling too much, by whatever. I don't want to hurt. I just want to push you away, let me collect myself so I can approach it in a better way when I come back.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I also learned like let go and wait for the other person to like get their thoughts together.
Yeah, and we all have our different ways of like sorting out feelings and processing and stuff, and that's one of the things we have to like learn as doing relationships is you have to learn to be patient with the other. But
Yeah,
ultimately,
that's part of growing
yeah.
in a relationship.
Ultimately, though, like this is like an advice that I was given pretty early on. Like once you lose respect for each other, and it comes down to like calling each other things that are uncalled for, that's when it's like, yeah, that's there's no resolving this. But yeah, like you have to learn how to handle conflicts and stuff like that. So yeah, this chapter was kind of difficult to write because I know I say like I love to I want to clear the air, but I'm a non-confrontational person. Like when it comes down to it, I don't like to confront people. Like
But
so
the person who says she likes to yell it out, she doesn't want a conflict.
Okay. So here's
I see how it
no,
is.
here's
I
the thing.
see how
No.
it is.
Hold on. Let me clarify. When it's somebody you care for and you want to fight for, and if it's going to ruin a relationship that you care for, that's when I go and I go face on. Like we need to talk this right now. Like now we have to clean. I will go in with a sledgehammer and I go like with my sledgehammer to try to But if it's for
That's
somebody
right. Go
that's
into
not
the voice chat. Go into the voice chat. There is a meme for you.
I am seeing it. I am seeing it. Hold on a second. But I'm just saying, like, I don't like to fight things. Like, when things are not worth it, I will not fight it. I'll be like, cool, you can think what you want. Like, I'm not gonna fight it. Like, whatever. I don't care to keep to. If it's not worth it, I won't fight it. I won't. But when it's somebody or something I care for a lot, I will go with sledgehammer and do the things. But usually though, like, nah, I don't know. Eh. So yeah, not everybody is like. Don't take what I'm saying and say like she applied to everything that Magpie does. Like, usually I'm a chill person.
I just love to tease you.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're clear though, because
Are we clear?
I hope we're clear.
Here?
I hope we're clear, because then otherwise I'll have to take out my sledgehammer and beat people over the heads. All right, so back to the fanfic. I do believe we covered everything that we need to do. I think we did chapter 68. Oh, one of my favorite parts writing about this was somehow I just figured that Eckhart, after 10 years of not getting any action, was able to like make her pass out. So I think he was kind of pleased with himself, like, still got it. That's kind of what I don't know.
So yes, men can be very simple in that respect. When we realize that we've given that kind of performance, we get a little prideful.
Yeah. So that's kind of reflected here. It kind of it also put into perspective. If I know we didn't read all of 64 because issues, you guys know, I kind of had to make it to PG, not PG, maybe a teen version. But the original version was very explicit onto the things that were said and done that were kind of like big yikes. Or as Fergie puts it in the chat, like big oof. It was pretty bad. The biggest of oofs. Yes, it was. Chapter 64 was the biggest of oofs.
What did you say about my Ferdinand?
Memes here. So we had that cleaning off the air. We got these two working out their issues. Next chapter is 69. I encourage you to go read it. I did not edit it out, but we're not going to read it on stream. Afterwards, next on Wednesday, we'll pick up on 70. I think, what time are we doing this? I think the same time, like in the afternoon. Yes. But I think we're gonna end this right now because we have another read along to do over on the server. We have to do Hannah Lore read along. So you guys, as ever, thank you to all of you who joined us today. Thank you to the gang who was here and who read. Once more, we had Yukihime read Mine, Patrick read Eckhart, Erminold was read by Emmy, who also read Lasfram and Eustace. And finally, JC Fergie read Ferdinand and Darius. Alright, you guys, if you have any thoughts, comments about this, you guys can leave your comments and thoughts below. You can also go...
I very much look forward to reading comments.
Yes, me too. And if you want to read the rest of the fanfic or chapter 69, which we will be skipping, go to the AO3. The link is on the description. You can see all of my fanfics and just look up A World Away. All right, everybody. Oh man, so many good comments on the chat, but we have to get going because we have Hannelore. But no worries, you guys. I am going to be reading them all out, and here have a whole slew of hearts to everyone who commented and who's being amazing and joining us here today. All right. So,
also a reminder for everybody who's listening, we will not be reading chapter 69. It's a bit naughty for YouTube, so next time we reconvene for this, we'll be reading chapter 70.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Do take care. We'll see you on Wednesday afternoon.
Don't forget
evening.
to like and subscribe.
Oh yes, and share it.
Yes, what Yukihime said.
Yes, that. Thank you for reminding
Join us here with coffee.
Do join us. Bye, everybody. Take care and good night. Bye, gang.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.